Newcastle, where are we in the league?
8th.
8th. It just feels so much worse than 8th. It really does.
Do you know, I was looking at this when I was doing a little bit of prep for this video, like 8th's pretty flattering, isn't it?
You're fucking right it is, mate. We'll start this now. Okay. Welcome back to the kickoff. Unfortunately, this episode, we're covering Newcastle United. And, like watching your club, lads, it's obviously what we live for, right? And it's one of the best bits of your week. I'm not sure I've enjoyed watching a single game of football, so far this season. It's been pretty fucking horrible. It's almost unrecognizable to look at the team that Eddie Howe took over, even when he barely had any players brought in. Immediately, the level of ferocity, intensity in that squad was outrageous. And I'm looking at this lot now, even with the money that we spent, and obviously we haven't invested in the last 2 transfer windows. So, that is a major issue, because when you don't invest, you go backwards. And we've sold players because of this bullshit PSR and whatnot. But, forgetting all that, we're just terrible to watch right now. It's horrendous. And I think 8th in the league feels very fortunate.
Do you know what's funny, right? I was just saying that it's almost quite flattering that you're 8th in the league, because last season, right, you were 10th in the league, after 8 games. But this season, you've only scored 8 goals. Last season, you'd scored 13 goals and you were 2 spaces lower in the league after 10 games. And obviously, listen, you've still got some key injuries, man. Like it's not going to help.
No.
It's not.
I'm not having the injuries on this season.
There now.
No, I know. Do you know what? Do you know what, lads? I'm just going to say it bluntly. The big earners have bottled it. They bottled it this season. The big earners haven't showed up, right? They all got rewarded with big new contracts, and they look like they haven't got a fucking clue in that final third right now. I don't know what's going on, but the drop off has been staggering. And so when you're looking for players like Bruno, Gordon, Isak to turn the game, and they're not there, you start scratching your head like, okay, well, the right side of midfield has been completely neglected. We've got Murphy, who's not even a Premier League level footballer on any given day. And Almiron, God help me. Almiron's still at Newcastle. Every time we get linked with a bloody move to Saudi or whatever, I get excited. He's still somehow there. And you think to yourself, why did we spend about 40 million on Anthony Gordon, left-sided midfielder? 35 million on Bonds, left-sided midfielder. We got 80 million quid's worth of left-sided midfielders, and we're still watching Murphy fuck that ball up every single time his fucking foot touches it. And then Almiron, God help me, coming off the bench. I don't understand. And in midfield, we were kind of talking earlier about the final decision making in Liverpool. How, in that final third, they make the right decision. Our midfield, God, they move the ball so slowly, so clumsily. The passing accuracy, the decision-making is terrible. And, Bruno Guimaraes, what is going on? Really? Like, it's getting to a point where some of the fan base are going, when we were getting talked about 100 million for him, fuck me. He doesn't look anywhere near that. Tonali's come back after his gambling ban. I'm watching him, right? I'm not saying it's been terrible, but it's got to get better. And Joe Linton looks clumsy as fuck this season. Do you know what? This is the saddest thing. The best player is Dan Burn. He pocketed out Erling Haaland. He might be the best player this season. And yeah, he's had a few stinkers, to be fair to him.
It's funny, when I looked at the team sheet yesterday and I see that midfield three of Bruno, Joe Linton and Tonali, I had high hopes for you.
Same.
I thought,
yeah, same.
Now they're getting back to something here. And obviously it didn't pan out that way. And I know you said, look, like you got most of the boys back on the pitch and whatnot, but at the same time, you do have injuries. You got Trippier out, you got the Cells out, you got Callum Wilson out. And I'll tell you what, right? I know Callum Wilson is he's your version of Reece James.
When's he in?
Wilson,
When's he in?
But when he is on the pitch, he can be clinical. And probably the biggest surprise so far this season is Alexander Isak's only got one goal in 6 games.
Mate.
I think your boy Noel Ranger would have scored more than that at Newcastle. So when you've got a player like Alexander Isak who's not actually producing anywhere near the level that we all know that he undoubtedly is capable of, it would be handy to have a Callum Wilson who you know that whether or not he can make it onto the pitch, when he does show a really good level of clinicality.
I feel like we've been found out, lads. I feel like, you know, like, because in the final third, what we used to have was overlapping fullbacks. Obviously, Kieran Trippier injured at the moment.
Yep.
And we have to get used to him, you know, getting on a bit. He's not, you know, a spring chicken. And Livramento not having a good season so far. Bless him. I don't know why. Then the overlapping fullbacks thing is happening. And my main issue is like, it's terrifying to see the energy that we used to show, the desire and the cutting edge going forward. We don't look like we actually practice together anymore. And the lack of technical ability in this team. We played Wimbledon the other day. Wimbledon, lads. Fuck me. I mean, yes, not all first team players. It doesn't matter. We look shy every game at the moment anyway. Yeah, we can have a bit of the ball, but the lack of a good pass sometimes, you're thinking to yourself, this is Premier League football, you know. I don't want to watch it anymore.
Yeah, but one thing I'd say is though, Brian, it's that, like yesterday, for example, okay, you dominated possession, but you had 21 shots on goal. Like that, you're still creating things, and that can be more frustrating sometimes when the team is actually creating things, or they're actually doing what they're supposed to do, but they're just not putting it in the back of the net, or they're not doing that final ball, like you said. It gets more frustrating rather than just putting in a stinker sometimes. But I think long term, as long as the team is still creating things, dominating possession, getting passes off, it means they're still, well, no one's saying they're not trying for the manager, but at least we know that they're playing football. Do you know what I'm saying? I think
no, but there's a missing ingredient that's really hard to quantify, but I get what you're saying, right? That was the first game this season where we've done that though, like where we've looked like we're on the front foot and trying to control the opposition. Most of the other games have been absolute shite.
Doesn't mean it's going in the right direction then. It's kind of switching a bit, no?
Well, Brighton were there for the taking. And when a team is there for the taking like that, and you don't even get a draw, it's absurd. And when you say 20 shots on goal, yeah, but like they were all from the wrong place, the wrong decision maker, consistently the wrong idea. And for me, the manager, I'll give you an example. We had a game not long ago where we were chasing it and we didn't throw on this young striker that we spent 15 million for. And now there I'm scratching my head going, well, what you bought him for then? 'Cause we're crying out for a goal. You're not bringing him on. What the fuck? I think it was against Everton. Because that was another nightmare of a game. He didn't bring him on. In this game, he did bring him on. And that was when I went, oh, you're out of ideas, you. You don't know what you're doing here. And it
really?
I feel like Eddie Howe is not a bad coach by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's a good coach. But you know, when you're not refreshing the squad and you're not giving the players something to feel like, oh, we're growing, we're building, and you're just stagnating. The energy, the passion in their football is just waning and waning away. And Eddie looks like he's struggling right now. And I worry for him because I do think he's the right man for the club. But because we've not backed him, he's now having to play footballers who aren't good enough, clearly. And the players who should be putting on the performances they are for him aren't doing that. And as much as I do have to blame him a little bit for it, you know, that game was there for the taking yesterday and they didn't show up. And what the problem is now is I'm looking at the fucking Premier League table. We've got 12 points, right? We are 5 points outside of the top four. I'm not expecting us to get top four because other teams have been able to invest, have been able to spend, and we haven't. And you just have to accept that the market's moving and we've had our hands tied behind our back by these corrupt Premier League bastards. But still, we're getting worse, and that's what I'm really concerned about.
And then when you look at your next 5 games, I think 3 of those 5 games that you've got coming up are Chelsea, Arsenal, and Liverpool. So it's not like you've got, you know, really winnable fixtures coming up. And when I mentioned,
we look like we'll get blown away by them. If we play like we've been playing, we will get blown. And what annoys me is against Man City, we put one hell of a performance in against them earlier this season. That was a game where we did really bring, really bring everything into the game. But it's these varying degrees of effort and ability to click together moving forward that I'm just like, to say I'm not convinced is an understatement. I think we'll get I think we could be in the bottom of the table.
I also think as well, another thing that's kind of made it difficult for Newcastle as well is those 2 seasons ago was it 2 seasons ago where you secured top 4 and you got into the Champions League?
Yeah. Wasn't last season.
Yeah, so when you guys were on the ascendancy and you was doing your thing, the thing is now you're looking at it like there's 8 teams now. It's not even a big 6 anymore. It's almost like a big 8. You've got like the usual 6 big clubs.
Yeah.
You got Newcastle there. You got Villa right there in the mix now. Villa obviously just got top 4 and they're on level points with Arsenal now. So Unai Emery's looking at the real deal with this team right now. And then you've got those annoying teams like Brighton who are just playing well. They beat you just now. We were beating them 2-0. They beat us 3-2. Yeah. They're on a little bounce right now. So there's like 8 to 9 really good teams right now. And I'm being generous putting Man United in there because where are they? They're 11. All right, let me take them out. Yeah. So you got the other 8 teams, right? Brighton's kind of taking their spot, but it's difficult now. There's a lot more competition. So it's like if you're not on your A game every week, the prospects of getting top 4 is a long shot, let alone flipping.
The most damning thing I can say, lads, is we're 8 games gone. And for me, the season's over. We're not getting top 6, in my opinion, with the way we've been playing.
There's 9 games left, Ryan. What do you mean?
Over the top.
Look, we're not winning a cup. Even top 6, like realistically, you know, it would be nice to have, but to me, I've watched enough games go by which have been a completely pointless waste of time. Like, those players have a duty to entertain the fans, to actually give 100%. The varying levels of effort have been a disgrace this season. So I'm now left going, look, if that's what you want to do, if I was a manager, I go, if this is what you want to do, fuck it. We'll just see how you feel, because you clearly aren't giving 100%. You don't give a fuck.
Brian, take it from me, who had to sit through an awful start for my team last season. Not 8 games in, I'm talking 18 games in, yeah? If you had said to me, have you got any chance of getting top 6 right now, I'd have gone like, fuck, have we got any chance? And look what ended up happening with Chelsea. Went on a really good run of form. So don't write off the possibility, but I'd agree with you that Manchester City draw was a bit of a false dawn, and not to rub salt in your wounds here, mate, but Manchester City were one of just 2 teams that you've played so far this season that at the time of playing them were actually positioned above you in the league. The other 6 were all teams that were positioned below you in the league.
And that's where I'm getting angry, you know. That's why I'm looking at Eddie Howe and thinking, you've shown me so much in the time that he's been coaching Newcastle that I don't want to say, fuck this, because how can he improve the team without investing in the squad, right? It's not all on him. But you do, as a fan, sometimes we do just start feeling like, just fucking rip it up, because I'm sick of this.
Do you think the whole England job thing affected Howard, or do you not factor that in?
I don't, because for some reason, they didn't even speak to the number 1 English manager in world football.
Because it's 6 million they would have to pay when they could get Tuchel for free. The entire.
Yeah. So clearly that really was never a factor with Eddie Howe, because he wasn't even spoken to. I think the main issue with Newcastle is the level of excitement when we first bought the club. And let's be honest, the Premier League, it's been proven they unlawfully made rules up deliberately. We've seen the emails 5 days after we were bought out to target Newcastle from stopping us from investing into the club via sponsorship deals. So we were able to invest a lot early on, and now we've had to stop. And now we're having to sell players, ironically, to Brighton, who are doing very well there, you know, and Anderson went to Nottingham Forest. But I feel like all of the momentum has been just sucked out of the club, and the players aren't, you know, robots. They know that the feeling of, well, we're going into the Champions League, we're going to take over the game, has gone, and now it's mid-table.
Do you see light at the end of the tunnel? Because obviously, with some of the Man City,
because of the rules,
the Man City case is still playing out at the moment. But with some of the developments in that case, that could have consequences that might affect Newcastle going forward, and might affect them in a positive way.
Yeah, I think that Richard Masters, we now know what we're dealing with this man. This man is not to be trusted at all. You can see he doesn't operate in the best interests of the game. He's a puppet who's there to be swayed and used by the top clubs, the Red Cartel, as they're called. And I'm hoping that because what he tried to do, and Man City really have made this fucking clown look like a total idiot, to be fair to them, is he tried to go, no, it's not a big deal that they've won this and they've proven that we're unlawfully doing these rules. This can be rectified. We'll just do another meeting. We'll sort it out. No problem. And he's had to admit, no, we can't just have a quick meeting and just paper over the cracks, because these rules have to be applicable for long periods of time. We can't just keep making rules up on the spot just to try and patch things up. And, you know, this is the fucking Premier League. We're talking about a multi-billion pound business. We need to think this through and get this right. So now he's had to show his arse. And now we know that they're going to have to make rules up that are actually fair, which means I think Newcastle will have a prayer, but I don't know how long that's going to take. That could take more years. And the excitement for Newcastle from where it was, I'll be honest, I'm not quite Steve Bruce, Mike Ashley, but you know, under them I had no hope. I've got very little hope now. It's like a little bit better, but not much better than that.
Do you think the level of excitement from the ownership would be waning at all right now? Because obviously, to put it into context, like and it's not to say that it's the exact and whatnot, but look at what the Saudis have been able to achieve and what they've been able to do since going into boxing. And you would have imagined that when they acquired Newcastle, they would have had similar, they still probably do have similar ambitions, but they would have maybe thought that this could be a similar trajectory, right? But now with the amount of hands being tied and roadblocks put up and whatever, do you think it might be something even from the ownership at the moment where they're kind of thinking, well, do you know what? We'll start to look at other things. We'll start to look at the Saudi Pro League a little bit more, and we'll start to pay our attention in other areas because these lot just aren't playing ball with us right now.
Yeah, I don't know. As a fan, we feel very much in the dark about what the situation is. And the maddest bit about how rich Newcastle really are, when you really think about it, we've got multiple owners. So we've got the Rubens and we've got the Saudis. Yep. And we had Staveley, but she's been bought out by the Saudis now. So the Saudis have acquired even more of the club. To my knowledge, even if the Saudis weren't involved, the Rubens would be the richest owners in the Premier League. So we not only got the Saudi, both of our owners are the richest in the Premier League. So we're like, that's how fucking mental it is for us to have our hands tied behind our back like this. And again, I just wish they would allow us to just jog. I'm not asking us to run the way Man City did, but just let us invest the way, you know, Manchester United are allowed to every single fucking year, the way Chelsea are allowed to. Like, let us at least do the basics of what a club like us should be allowed to do. And I don't know. The fact that they've ruled it unlawful speaks volumes.
Even the way Aston Villa have been allowed to. Like, I know they've had to sell, was it Douglas Luiz they had to sell recently? Yeah. But if you go back for a couple of seasons before, I know a lot of it comes off the Jack Grealish sell, but there's many teams in the league that have been able to.
They've sold a lot of academy players though. Like, it's not just about those two players that you mentioned. They've sold probably 5 or 6 like academy players with money.
I can't tell you how amazing it is all these years later after the original buyout to be looking at Sean Longstaff, Miguel Almiron, Murphy, Dan Burn. No offense, Dan Burn. He's played well this season, like at times, but you're just like, fuck me. This is the worst movie ending ever.
You're not really
still got a lot of good players in there, though.
I've never really heard you mention it.
Mate, but like
from where you came from, you still got. There's still exciting. You still got Isak in there. You still got Bruno Guimaraes. You got. There's exciting players in that team still, though.
You know what? Though we're just below that exciting period now. We've fallen down, so now we're just mid-table, and there isn't that much excitement.
It's 8 games. It's 8 games. I know there's no win in the last 4.
But we're terrible. Man.
I think the only thing I'd say that's quite concerning is like I'm looking at the table now. We're 1 point above you, but our goal difference is +9. Yours is 0. And even the teams below you, like every other team above you, have quite a significant goal difference going up. You've scored 8 goals and let in 8 goals. You even hit double figures in 8 games yet.
We look trash, mate. In the final third, every time I watch Murphy just punt the ball out for a goal kick, and I'm just like, how much more do we have to watch? Like, it's infuriating. And you kind of have to allow Gordon and Isak and Bruno a little bit because they fucking carried this club for the last 2 years. But equally, like, we just signed them all on massive contracts. What the fuck's going on?
Start showing up, man.
Yeah. We'll leave that one there, lads.
Can I ask you one more question? Sorry, just before we do, can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
At what point does Eddie Howe start coming under pressure from the fan base? And that's not a loaded question. That's not me saying he should be.
Yeah.
Not because I'm a Chelsea fan who's used to sacking managers left, right and centre. But do you feel the tide could turn at some point soon, or do you feel that the Geordies are going to understand that the situation you're in is going to be a hard one for any man?
Well, we have got Sven Botman coming back next into later this year, who was a massive player. You don't know if he's going to be the same guy. I think if we drop into the bottom half of the table, that's a massive regression.
Yeah.
Even though we haven't been investing in the same way other clubs have, I think that's where it is. I think the fans know he was fucked over and that he was let down big time in the summer. So I think we've got to give him till January, invest in January and see how the end of the season goes. If we end up just flattening out and going into the mid-table, bottom half of the table, even after some investment, then he could be fucked. Yeah.
Do you know what's interesting is you look at the last game of this calendar year, it's an 8:00 Monday night game away to Man United.
Oh, I knew it was going to be Man United. Fuck off. Fuck off. I can't handle that thing in the game that Eddie Howe's relying on. I believe in Eddie Howe. There was a moment last season where I was starting to wonder because it was just trash. And that's the thing that I'm most worried about is if you look at this calendar year, like Eddie Howe so far in his entire duration as manager of Newcastle, I think he's a top 4 manager, even despite taking over a relegation battling team. So I got to give him credit. But this calendar year, it has got worse. And part of that has been the Champions League. And part of it has been lack of investment and things out of his control. So I got to give him time.
Yeah.
But like it's horrendous. It's horrendous. We'll pause that one there. I'll come back to it later. We'll see how he gets on this season. Shout out to everyone who enjoyed these episodes. Hit the like button, subscribe to the Kickoff, and we'll see you on the next one.